Welcome everyone, this is Peak Usage Study at the Nissan Smyrna plant. I'm Rachel Franklin.
And I'm Jared Boner.
And we're going to talk to you about the assessment of traffic patterns caused by the shift changes of the Nissan plant in Smyrna, Tennessee. We're going to determine the adequacy of the current roadway facility in place, calculate a representative flow, mean speed, and density during different times of the day. Smyrna, Tennessee is located in Middle Tennessee, and the Nissan plant is in the southern central part of the city. The population is approximately 40,000 people, and there are three major roadways: State Route 1, 102, and 266. The Nissan plant is at the intersection of State Route 1 and 102, known as South Laurie Street and Nissan Drive, respectively, and this is the name that we'll be calling them by for the remainder of the presentation. The Nissan plant in Smyrna employs over 8,000 people, and most of the gates are along South Laurie Street and Nissan Drive. There are also a few gates on side streets that eventually connect into these larger roads. There are three primary shift changes: 6 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m. The intersection of South Laurie Street and Nissan Drive looks like this. Here's Laurie Street and Nissan Drive. It's kind of an odd shaped intersection because of this railroad right here, which actually runs underneath the bridge where Nissan Drive crosses over Laurie Street. The Nissan plant is located over here to your right. Here's some on-site photos. Both roads are 4-lane facilities, divided highways, and they have ingress and egress points to the plant, and most of them are signalized intersections, and they have right in, and left out. For the approach, we will measure the effect of the Nissan shift changes on the traffic. We'll determine the flow and speed, calculate the density to provide a numerical representation. We'll use the moving observer calculations discussed in lecture. We'll take measurements of the lengths, and we will count the cars that pass the driver as we observe, and those in the opposing traffic direction. We'll collect data for two of the primary shift changes. We won't be collecting data for the 10 p.m. shift change because it will be dark and it would cause safety hazards for us, as well as not being able to see very good to make proper observations. But we will add a control time, and that will be 10 a.m. This is a time of day when traffic is relatively normal in Smyrna. There's not anything there that would cause a peak flow. Okay, so the first thing we did for our research activity was to set limits on the area to be included in the study. For South Laurie Street, we began at Sam Griffith Road, which actually itself has an ingress into the plant, and we continued up north to the southbound exit ramp. The beginning of that and totally encompassed the intersection. Across from the southbound exit ramp, there's a guide sign there, so this just seemed like a good place to include from start to finish and have everything inside of the stretch of road that would be affecting the Nissan plant. Nissan Drive begins, the stretch on Nissan Drive begins at Chicken Pike, which is on the left side of your screen, and then it extends up to Enon Springs Road. Chicken Pike is the first road on the opposite side of the intersection, so it kind of is a good indicator for where the traffic related to this intersection and the plant ends. And then Enon Springs is a fairly large local road, and it has ingress and egress into the plant as well. The road length in both cases were determined by DMI. On South Laurie Street, we measured 6,756 feet, and on Nissan Drive, 6,658 feet. So they're very close in length. As I mentioned previously, we used a moving observer equation. We calculated the flow by counting the number of cars moving against the traffic, which is X, and then the net number of vehicles who pass the observer, which is Y. And TA is the time moving against, TC is time moving with the traffic. Mean travel time can be calculated using that time moving with the traffic, the number of cars who pass the observer, and the flow just calculated previously. Velocity is calculated with the length and the mean travel time, and density calculated by the flow and the velocity. So data will be collected by physically driving the road segments. And as I said, the times of collection will be the 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. We will drive in each direction and measure time, distance, and the net amount of same direction vehicles passing the driver and the number of vehicles in the opposing direction.
Alright, this is our control data, basic raw data that we saw. As you can see, we generally never passed or were passing more than one vehicle for our control time. So we used the X, Y, TA, and TC calculations to get our Q vehicles per hour. It ranged from 550 to 650, depending on what street and what direction you were going. V sub S, which is our calculated time, was anywhere from 45 to 38 miles an hour. The posted speed limit on this road is 45 miles an hour, so we were never over it. We were generally going with the flow of traffic. Our density for our control time ranged from 12 to 17 vehicles per mile. Alright, at our 6 a.m. shift change, we see that most of the traffic coming in is actually on eastbound Nissan Drive, but it doesn't have the highest it doesn't have the highest flow nor the highest density. That's on westbound Nissan Drive. We pass the most vehicles on eastbound Nissan Drive. Our flow and our density both increased. Our speed decreased, except for southbound Lowry Street at 6 a.m., which it increased. This is our 2 p.m. data. As you can see, flow and density both increase, speed decreased as well here too. Alright, here's our discussions. Based on our control times, we have 3 directions which have significant increase in usage during shift change. Alright, we have 3 entrances from the plant on Nissan Drive and 2 entrances from on Lowry Street. Our density increases by 10 vehicles per mile on southbound Lowry Street and in both directions of Nissan Drive. On southbound Lowry Street and westbound Nissan Drive, see an increase of roughly 500 vehicles per hour. Eastbound Nissan Drive sees an increase of about 200 vehicles. Speed is decreased 5 to 10 miles an hour on both roads, and we wanted to put a caveat in here that said that our measurements can be affected by the presence of the signals leading into the plant. They can slow our time down, they can increase our time. So there's a little ambiguity in what our calculations were actually. Our conclusions are that westbound Nissan Drive and southbound Lowry Street are the primary usage roads during shift change. This makes sense for 2 reasons. The first reason is that westbound Nissan Drive has direct access to I-24, which is easy travel time to Nashville and into the Smyrna area. You can go out there and avoid a bunch of traffic in downtown Smyrna and get home easy. Southbound Lowry Street is the primary route to Murfreesboro, easiest, quickest way to get back to Murfreesboro. So all 3 of these places have people that work at the plant. The second reason is that most of the traffic at shift change is leaving the plant. We talked to several employees. They said that there's no set time to show up for shift, except you got to be there before shift change occurs. So they generally arrive at staggered times to begin with, so we don't get all the inflow, we just get all the outflow from what we studied. We did have the one unexpected outcome on northbound Lowry Street. It actually sees a drop in usage during the 2 times we studied shift change compared to our control. We kind of made some conclusions. Well, we didn't kind of make any conclusions. We inferred that the local traffic knows to avoid this area during shift change. Therefore, we wouldn't see our control traffic. We would see our control traffic decrease through here. And additionally, it is also due to the irregular arrival times of the shift workers. It can also be that a lot of the traffic from northbound Lowry Street hits eastbound Nissan Drive to get into the plant, so we would lose some from Lowry Street getting on a Nissan Drive that we would see in Nissan Drive calculations. In summary, this facility is currently adequate to keep traffic flowing during peak usage, which we assumed was during the Nissan plant shift change. There's also another time of high usage in the mornings when there's a lot of traffic going to Nashville from Murfreesboro and Smyrna to work. But that was not what we were studying. It's not really what we were interested in. We just assumed that peak usage was during shift change at the plant. Northbound Lowry Street and eastbound Lowry Drive do not approach jam, nor do they have any shock waves created in their flow during the shift change. There's no backup because traffic is just heavy. Southbound Lowry Street and westbound Nissan Drive approach it but never reach jam density. And it was observed on our end that most of the jamming occurs at the gates because of the signals here. People would stop, traffic would back up. This has created traffic jams in the past. We were there to look at something else at one time, and there was a lot of traffic in the area, but it was not because of the amount of traffic, it was because of the signals. So, and with that, we would like to thank you for watching our presentation.
Thanks.